We're taking a trip down memory lane with some people who've really changed the world. Lee Felsenstein, Harry Garland, Bob Marsh, Jeff Raskin, Alan Baum, and Steve Wozniak. 6 of the people, there were many, of course, who were involved in the Home Brew Computer Club, one of the first computer. You said it wasn't the first computer club.
Well, I was talking about the People's Computer Center, which was sort of a drop-in center that had their own computer. So you're talking about how hard it was for anybody to play with a computer, but the People's Computer Center, you could drop in and use a computer and learn how to program.
Was it a microcomputer? I mean,
no. Oh no, they had a PDP-8.
As a PDP-8,
which was the first microcomputer.
It was a mini computer, really.
Mini computer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you were writing in Fortran. What were you?
They were teaching Focal, basic and Focal.
Basic and games are written in Basic.
Yeah. Now on this Altair, you were programming it how?
Binary.
You're programming.
That's the difference. You're flipping switches.
Switches. It's pretty painful.
And what could it do? Anything? Besides
a computer's a computer.
It had no I/O. We thought
it could blink lights.
It looks like an airplane cockpit, so it must be able to fly.
we had our expectations raised by Steve Dompier, whom I wish could have been here. That's who got one of those, the serial number 3. In fact, he drove to Albuquerque to get it. So he was programming the minimum it could do, which was to make a sorting program. Right? So you can sort some numbers. Right. You can only read the numbers out by looking at the lights.
There's no paper tape.
No.
There's no terminal. There's no keyboard.
Nothing connected to it. Nothing. But he had a weather radio, little radio sitting on top of it. He was a pilot too. So, and he was listening to the weather radio, and he ran the program, and he could hear it go zip, 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 which was the loop of the program getting shorter and shorter as it did the
and it's coming out as RF and coming into the radio?
It's coming out as noise that gets into the radio and comes out as music. He did a music program in 30 hours.
No.
He brought it to the 3rd meeting of the Homebrew Club, didn't tell anybody what was going to happen, set us up, pushed the button, and it started playing The Fool on the Hill, which was the first bit of sheet music you could find. And after that, it went into Daisy, Daisy, which for those of us who know, was the first song ever sung by a computer anywhere in 1960 by Max Matthews.
Yeah, and then HAL 9000 sang it a little later on. In
that was what I was referring to, yes. Right. So that just opened our eyes. It's like, yes! We can actually do stuff that nobody would even dream of doing, because of course you get chased out if you tried to use a real computer for this.
He did it by flipping, so he must have had blisters on his fingers. I mean,
you had to do it over. The power failed, and he had to do it again. The power failed when he first put it in, and then he had to re-enter everything.
There's no memory. You don't turn the thing off because you're going to have to start over?
No flash.
Well, you have to realize there wasn't much memory, so there wasn't that much you could toggle in the beginning.
That's right.
It was 256 bytes.
Yeah.
256 bytes. So that's not each switch is a bit, so that's not a whole lot of switching.
And now you can have a gigabyte in this.
In that. In a little thumb drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Woz walks around with 2 gigabyte thumb drive hanging around his neck with all his software on it. But what's interesting is you guys still, this is primitive. This is really primitive, even compared with the mini computers of the day. But you still saw something in there. Was it that it was on your desktop, that it was personal? What was it?
Yeah, I had the experience. In fact, I had the machine that you wanted. I had it, because of my university connections, I had a Data General Nova in the back of my truck.
Wait a minute. Around. You had a Nova in the back of your truck?
Yeah.
It's too bad you didn't have a Nova. You could have a Nova in the back of your Nova.
And so I knew what it meant to have a little computer that you could take wherever you wanted, have it on your desk, wheel it. I hate to wheel it into
Why did you drive around with a Nova in the back of your truck?
Because it was there. And it was this, you go into a restaurant and you'd wheel in this.
No! You'd come in with your computer.
You come with your computer, you'd sit at the computer alongside the table, you put the terminal on the table, and you could work while you're eating at the restaurant. We do it today.
But now we do it with laptops, of course.
As soon as I saw this, I said, hey, now I can actually own one. I don't have to use universities.
Even though it was considerably primitive. Did you immediately start saying, what more? We got to put a video display in this.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you got to put a terminal in there. Tell me about the first video display card. Was that yours, Lee? Or?
Well, we have to break it up. Harry's was first with the video graphics card, the one you're holding.
This is the Dazzler.
The Dazzler.
Now, is this S100? This predates S100?
That is S100.
This is S100. Okay, so that's the original bus.
Yeah, right. We looked at what we could find in the documentation. Then finally we looked at the actual thing, the Altair, and we saw empty sockets.
Right.
And that was the future.
Right.
And Bob immediately started a company in his mind and to fill those
processor
sockets.
technology, yeah.
Altair made the great mistake of including a manual with all the schematics.
Oh, my.
Altair computer, and so it was a relatively trivial task to design equipment to run on there. Well, it's called the Altair bus before it was the S100.
But in a way,
it was Harry and I who invented the term S100.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah,
So it was,
Krememko, of course, was...
we had a bit too much to drink at a trade show in Atlantic City, and we decided...
On the airplane going there.
Oh,
Is there 100 pins on here? Is that why
Yeah,
it
there's
says?
100 pins on there.
100 pins on there. What's the S stand for?
Standard.
Standard. I wanted to call it the Century Bus, but he figured that it would be better if it was a really dull name. It would take off better.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's S100. I like that very much. That's very good. Yeah.
So Bob and I had rented a garage. Actually, before this happened, and Bob was casting around for something to build. I was just being a design consultant. Suddenly there were things to design.
Yeah.
And it started out with a memory board, a ROM board, and just a serial parallel interface. But I had published a little mimeographed specification for what I called the Tom Swift terminal.
Oh, yeah.
Or a convivial cybernetic device, where I basically set down in specification form what a modular, bus-oriented personal computer could look like. I never built it. And in effect did the thinking about how do you couple video to this economically to get text out. And that set me up so that Bob, not too much later, said, we will pay you to design the Tom Swift terminal if you design it our way. And I did. And that became the Video Display Module, VDM1. And that was 64 characters per line, 16 lines. The screen flashed whenever you used it because the memory was so slow. But that basically was copied and improved by Radio Shack for the TRS-80, and it went on to become more or less the standard architecture of text display.
You said an interesting thing. He published the schematics. I mean, that was kind of, it was very open, and that was the spirit at the time, was a spirit of sharing, of openness. We'll show you how to do it. You do some stuff. Not everybody was thrilled about that. In fact, we're going to come back in just a bit and talk about a visit from a young man who was very unhappy, in fact, about the openness of the Home Brew Computer Club. We'll talk about that, a young man who went on to some big things when the Screensavers continues. Stay right here.